My name is Lauren Steiner, and I am an alumni engagement officer at Point Park. I'm also a 2011 graduate of the university. Today, I'm back with another episode of Staying Grounded, and I'm so beyond excited to be talking with my new friend and Point Park graduate, Parry Adams. Parry, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. It's always fun to kind of connect with someone, even if that's just has to be virtually for right now.
It is. It is fun to connect with people. Yes.
Yeah. Well, so I first and foremost, I always like to start out. What are we drinking this morning?
This morning, I'm on to my second cup of coffee in my Central Park mug from Starbucks, of my vast collection.
Yeah.
But I am drinking, it's pour over coffee with peppermint essential oil and chocolate collagen powder. Oh, and butter and coconut oil. It's like a bulletproof coffee, but slightly fancier.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, I recognize the butter because I heard about the bullet coffee. I've heard about that before. But yeah, so I also have my Starbucks mug today. I have my Pittsburgh one.
Hey.
Not as cool and retro as yours, but I like this this design series. This was one of my favorite design series. So I got the Pittsburgh one because I know you love Pittsburgh and I love Pittsburgh. And I just have an iced coffee. So I'm drinking an iced coffee in my mug.
Yes. I mean, I drink wine out of mine sometimes.
They're good for everything. Good for everything. Well, I just want to get started just here a little bit. So just tell me a little bit about yourself. So we know that I spoiled the beans. You graduated from Point Park, big shocker there. So let's back up a little bit. So high school, Parry, you're in high school. How did you come to find Point Park? How did you come to decide that you wanted to go to Point Park? What was that process like for you?
So high school, I went to Norwin High School in Irwin for all you Pittsburgh folks who know the area. So I went to Norwin, and my voice teacher at the time knew that I wanted to go into musical theater. And so we started looking at schools. She was born and raised in this area too. So she thought, okay, Point Park, because she knew a bunch of people who went there. And so I looked at Point Park, I looked at Emerson, I looked at Boston Conservatory, I looked at CMU. And so I ended up auditioning just for Boston Conservatory, CMU, and Point Park. Point Park was my backup school, not gonna lie, was my backup school. And I got into Boston Conservatory, but I couldn't afford it. So Point Park it was.
Point Park it was.
Yeah, not a bad thing, just, the way it happened. So I sort of just learned about it because friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Remind me again what you chose to major in whenever you came to Point Park.
So I have the Bachelor of the Arts with a focus in musical theater.
Nice. So in high school, I'm going to assume that you were involved in some sort of musical things. So were you in the musical? Were you in the choir? What were you involved in?
All of the above.
Okay.
So I was part of show choir. I was part of our regular chorus. I did a group called LT Harmony. I don't know if it exists anymore, but it's like a barbershop group. And I'd say quartet, but there were like 20 people in it, so it's not a quartet. But it was a barbershop group, so that was fun. So we only did one musical per year, so I did 3 musicals while I was in high school, 1 play, because I decided, I can act my senior year.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
You're so well-rounded.
I try to be.
Yeah.
But yes, I actually started with chorus when I was in elementary school and just kept going with it. Added in show choir in junior high, kept going with that. But I did orchestra when I was in elementary and junior high. Not that junior high exists for Norwin anymore, but it did when I was there.
Yeah, same for me.
But yeah, so I did orchestra for a little while, but I couldn't fit it into my schedule for high school because singing was more important than the violin for me.
Right. I understand that. Yeah. So musical theater, obviously you've got the singing component down, but there is some dance involved with that as well. So were you a dancer at all? Was that just something that you did with the musicals, or did you take dance lessons or anything like that?
I did. I took from a school in Irwin called Janet's Dance School. I started there when I was little. I started there and then I took a break to try some other things. And then I
Those
decided,
things
no,
seem to stick too well.
right? I went back to dance. I had to give up soccer. So I was just dancing there for a while and doing a chorus at school and choir at church. And I danced up until ninth grade with Janet. And I was like, I'm going to go do cheerleading. So I ended up just stopping the educational part of my dance at
Yeah.
ninth grade and continued on with
Yeah.
cheerleading for those last 3 years before I headed off to Point Park and their incredible dance program. I was surprised how much I really liked Point Park as far as their education went. I mean, of course, I didn't want to take any of the liberal arts classes because who wants to take English?
I know. You're not alone there.
I did learn a lot from the dance program for sure, because all of the dance that I had learned up to that point was technically correct, but I don't know, it wasn't robust, we'll call it.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but I mean, I guess that's to be expected from a small town to,
Yeah.
big university college.
Yeah.
Um, so I was so happy with the education for dance that I got there. And singing wise, I learned a lot. It was interesting the progression that I went through, because when I was a freshman, I had a voice teacher that we didn't really mesh well. He wanted me to be something that I didn't want to be vocally. And so we butted heads a lot. And then I switched over to Ricardo Tobia's studio. And the man was amazing. Really brought stuff out in my voice that I never knew I had. Because I was very much a soprano growing up, always a soprano. I really liked belting and using my chest voice and everything, but it was never developed in the way that I got from Ricardo's studio. And the acting, I definitely got a lot out of that part too.
Wow.
But that's probably my weakest link.
Okay. That's
Um,
okay. It
yeah,
sounds like you're really excelling in these other areas. So that's
yeah.
okay to have a little bit of a weak spot. That's okay.
I mean, I had gotten up through to my senior year before like the acting, directing kids decided, oh, wow, she doesn't suck. Let's cast her in some plays.
Um,
Uh,
mhm.
so, it's,
Yeah.
it's, a, it's a big leap from, freshman and soap opera super cheeseball acting.
When you were talking about everything that you learned in the dance through dancing and also with your singing at Point Park, that's something that I actually have heard quite a few times from COPA alumni, is how well-rounded of an education that they received while at Point Park. Even recent graduates that I've met with have said the same thing. They aren't just getting a box step education. They're really coming out and the world is at their fingertips, basically.
Yeah, and there's so many inspiring teachers at
Yeah.
Point Park. I mean, there's
Oh, yeah.
so many inspiring teachers. It's
Oh,
incredible. It's absolutely
it is.
incredible.
Some alumni think that they're forgotten about or that people don't remember them, but I will squash that thought right there, because when you mention someone's name, they'll say, "Oh yeah, she was here, and then she went to here, and then she's in. I lost track of her, but I think she might be over here now." And they just, they keep tabs and they know what you're doing, and they're equally as proud of every alumni and student that has come through the doors. So I know you're back in the Pittsburgh area for now or recently, right?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, when I would tell people who weren't from Pittsburgh about the school, I'm like, listen, it's 3 buildings in the middle of downtown Pittsburgh and a theater complex in Oakland.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's very small. Not so small anymore. Um,
No.
And I also thought it was kind of funny because when I was living in the dorms, it's like the city shuts down at 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
What do you do for, bored college kids? Now, I and my friends might be just a little silly. So we would go. So Kaufman's was still
Okay.
around when
Yes.
I was down there. So we would go to Kaufman's, and we would go to the gown section. And we would obviously pick out the gowns that we really wanted to try on. And then we would go around and try to find the ugliest dress we could find to see what it would look like on and how ridiculous it would be. Um,
Yeah.
and
I
honestly,
love this.
some of those ugly dresses were amazing on.
Yeah.
Most of them were ridiculous.
Oh my
But we
God.
do have photographic evidence of this.
Oh, you're gonna have to share this with me because I love everything about this. I'm already in my brain thinking like, could this be a new activity for me? Like I love this idea. I love dress up. I love it so much. I love everything about this. That's
I,
awesome.
I didn't think about it in those terms of it being dress up, but it
Right,
totally
right.
makes sense for musical theater kids to want to play dress up.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's so cool. That makes me think of, I grew up dancing. I never was into theater because you don't want to hear me saying, but I danced. I danced a lot, and I like to perform. I like to put on a show. I didn't like to practice. I just like to put on a show. So
Nobody likes to.
So my mom had a seamstress friend, and she would buy all these old prom gowns from all decades, and she would have them. If she was going to be repairing someone's gown, she would take like elements off of these gowns. When she was downsizing, she let me go upstairs and go through. She had racks and racks of these old prom dresses, and my mom let me take like a whole bunch of them home. And my friends and I used to put on these dresses, and like none of them fit us, but like we would just put them on. But it was so much fun, and that's what made me think of it when you were talking about that. Like, that's exactly what I used to
Ooh,
I know.
I
So
love
fun. Whenever I was even in school in 2011, Pittsburgh still pretty much shut down around like 5 or 6. We did not have the restaurants and places that we even have today. And that was not that long ago. That wasn't even 10 years ago. Point Park has more than 3 buildings now too, but it makes Point Park's campus just seem even bigger. It is pretty cool to be walking through Pittsburgh and go into a different Starbucks or coffee shops down there and see Point Park students really just spread out all over. So while you were at Point Park, in terms of, performances or opportunities or organizations, what was your experience like?
well. I don't know if it's still the case, but at the time, freshman musical theater and theater students were not allowed to be in the shows. So I got, the backstage perspective because of that. So instead of performing in the shows, we were the crews for the shows. So we
Yeah.
would run lights and, all the backstage stuff. I was a costumer for one of the dance shows, and I did front of house for Pirates of Penzance. So, like, you learn all these different aspects of theater and what goes into making it happen. I did an apprenticeship in the prop shop. Um, I got tired of that 3 years in. So, my senior year, I was a shuttle driver because, yes, they did not have professional shuttle drivers when I was there. We had apprenticeship program for that.
Wow.
Yes.
This is the first I've ever heard that. That's so cool.
I mean, it
Save
was,
that one for me just so I could be organically surprised.
yes. I'm not sure that we ever really stuck to just 14 people. We were cramming people into that van like it's like,
Like a
oh, you
440
want
bus.
to sit on the floor in between the two front seats? That's fine. I will be careful.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, just making loops from downtown out to the theater in Oakland. But once my sophomore year came, I was in shows for every semester. So I did a chorus line. I was in The Pied Piper, a rapping rump for rats, which was so Shirley Barish was the head person at the time, and she had written this children's rapping romp for rats. It was utterly ridiculous, but it was fun.
Sounds fun.
And I was cast as a dancer in that show, so it was very exciting for me. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
How fun.
Oh, I did Guys and Dolls. I was a
Oh, that's a good one.
yeah. Let's see what else. I was in The Hobbit, a musical, a children's musical. It's like an 80s vibe for that show, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that was a whole dramatic story about how I actually got into that show, because I wasn't cast the first semester of my senior year. So that was upsetting, to say the least. And one of the directors, Mark Kalla, said, "Oh, well, would you want to understudy 13 roles in this show?" We had 3 understudies. We were each understudying about 13 roles for the show.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
Yes, that's it. Fine. And so with that one, I learned stage combat, and so that was really fun. And then ultimately, one of the guys who had been cast for 3 roles was unable to do it. So they're like, "Okay, well, it's yours now. You have these 3 roles. We're going to get a different understudy to go ahead and understudy your 13 roles." I'm like, "Okay." Yeah, so I ended up playing Smog, an elf, and a goblin.
Wow. What a
Children
roller coaster.
so much fun because you
Yeah.
get to just be ridiculous on stage, and the kids just eat it up. It's amazing.
Oh, I would have ate it up too.
My senior year, the piece de resistance was sideshow, and I was in sideshow. So that was probably my favorite role that I did at Point Park. So much fun.
That's so awesome. So as you're naming some of these shows that you were in, it's all good for me. I'm a sponge. I absorb as much information as I can, but every alumni that I speak to, I hear about these new shows that they were in, and I didn't know about them. And our office came to acquire a lot of old, it was probably from the Playhouse, whenever the original Playhouse closed. There's a lot of posters and marketing materials from a lot of these. And when we were on ground in our offices, I was putting together some to have framed to be in my office, because I have a lot of the ones from, the new CLO summer series. I'll have any of the alumni that I meet with. If they're in it, I want them to sign it. I have the playbills. I want them to sign them. I want everyone's autograph. And these ones, when you're saying a chorus line in sideshow for sure, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have those posters. They're laying on my desk. So once we're able to be back in our offices, and I'm going to have you come down, we'll get a tour, but you got to sign it. You got to sign them. We got to get your picture with it. So do you have a favorite memory from Point Park, whether it was one of these roles that you played, or maybe someone that you met, a professor that had the greatest impact on you?
There's so many events just packed into those 4 years, because you're doing shows and you're meeting people, and you're trying to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life after you graduate. So it's hard to pinpoint like a specific event, because I have so many great memories from Point Park. I would say that my favorite thing about the experience were all of the friends and people I met there, because now I see them and they're blossoming and growing. And I mean, even now, however many years after we graduated, it's just like picking up new skills, and you see things on social media that they're doing, and you're like, oh, I knew you back when. So it's really the people. Like, I had so many brilliant teachers that gave me nuggets of things that like I think of to this day. Like if I'm preparing a song to sing for whatever event, and I'm having a mental weirdness with a part of it, and their little phrases come into my head saying, hey, you're going to want to do this, and then stop not breathing. You're going to have to breathe if you're going to sing this. You work through so many of your roadblocks when you're going through all of that training in college, and their pieces of advice constantly come into my head. It's really amazing.
Yeah, what a good one. That is such a good answer. I couldn't have said it better myself. That's amazing. So during the summer months or during break, did you pursue any opportunities, performance opportunities, or jobs that kind of helped you transition after you graduated from, university setting to real world setting?
I worked for Kennywood my first
Yeah.
summer as one of their performers,
Yeah.
and I worked for Kings Island out in Cincinnati
Okay.
for 4 summers. So the 3 summers between school years and then an extra summer after that. And it's interesting. Kings Island sort of prepared me like to do office work, which
Oh,
is interesting.
okay.
Because they also made me a vocal captain, which meant that I was in charge of making sure that the show sounded vocally right, um,
Okay.
which is great. So
Mhm.
they taught me some management skills, and they brought me into their television studio. And I helped them go through old videos that they were trying to either scrub the tapes or look for different footage for the commercials that they were putting together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was interesting, and fun, and the guys who worked there were just awesome. And I also worked in the performance office.
Okay.
Um, I worked there and helped them get organized with things. So, it's things that you don't think that you're going to use down the line, but when you move to New York City and you're unable to pay your rent and eat, getting an office job seems like the best idea.
Yeah, yeah. So how did you find these opportunities?
So it was interesting. I did skip a day of classes to go to the King's Island audition.
I'm
But
not telling.
my a friend of mine who was in class with me, she was like, I'm gonna go to this audition tomorrow, do you want to come? I said, okay. So I ended up going in there, and
Yeah.
the it was, I thought, a laughable audition. They're like, okay, well, we want you to sing um Unbreak My Heart. I'm
Oh,
like, okay. uh because at the time I'm very ingenue musical theater girl. And you're
yeah.
like, you
Yeah.
want me to sing a pop song?
Yeah.
Weird, but okay. So I sang Unbreak My Heart, and they're like, okay, well, we want you to sing the Tina Turner version of Proud Mary. And I'm like, uh, I don't really know the verse for that song, but I know the chorus. And they're like, okay, well, we'll teach you the verse real quick. So I sang through Proud Mary, and I'm like, this is Tina Turner. I'll give it the good old college try.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
So we I sang through it, and I didn't even sing the verse right because I just learned it. But they're like,
Right.
oh, okay, thank you very much. I'm like, cool. That's the worst audition ever.
Oh.
And then like a week or so later, they called me and said, we'd like to offer you the show. I was like, what? Okay, that sounds like fun. I'm gonna do it.
Wow. That's funny.
And that first summer that I was out at Kings Island was when I learned that my voice actually has soul, and I should use that.
Okay, so you graduate college, you're at Kings Island for a year or so after graduation, and then in a short synopsis, where did you go from there? How did you like Kings Island, and then you kind of did a little one of these, and then back to Pittsburgh?
And
So
yeah, so after my senior year at Kings Island, I then came back to Pittsburgh and thought, okay, well, I'm going to move to New York. So I tried to move to New York, and then Kings Island called me and said, hey, do you want to do the show this summer? And I was like, yes, New York is hard. Um, so, so I went back out to Kings Island for that fourth
yeah,
summer. So at the end of that year at Kings Island, I had gone to a couple of auditions, one for Disney Cruise Lines and then one for Holland America Cruise Lines, Stiletto Entertainment.
okay,
I got called to do Holland America.
Mhm.
I went out to LA for a couple of months. I ultimately did not do that cruise ship because I'm a diabetic, and they did not tell me that I needed to have my tests in a certain range in order to be able to perform. And that's a whole side story,
Oh,
saga of diabetes being
yeah.
a real pain in the patoot.
Mm.
Ultimately, I had worked for Starbucks in Pittsburgh. And as I got the sad news that I would not be doing that cruise ship, my sister was living in Atlanta, and I said, can I come and live with you guys? Yeah, I went back to Pittsburgh for like a week.
Okay.
Um, and then I headed down to Atlanta for 2.5 years with my sister. And while I was in Atlanta, I learned jazz, and I sang with my jazz pianist friend down there, which was eye opening, because jazz is a whole different monster from musical theater, and pop, and every other genre, but jazz,
Yeah.
oh, something you can sink your teeth into. And then ultimately, my dad passed, and um, life was in upheaval. And I said, you know what, I'm going to move to New York. I've always said that I wanted to go there and really give musical theater a try. Let's do that. So I moved to New York. I was being a barista for Starbucks and a couple different restaurants and trying to audition, and I kept getting the same feedback from those people, that, yeah, oh, you're great. We're going to keep you in mind for other things. Okay. Lies. I appreciate the
Yeah.
the niceties.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was like, okay, I can't pay my rent and eat. My friend said, "Oh, well, you should just temp. I'm going through this temp agency. You can do office work." I said, "Yes." So you should just temp. Okay, great. So got involved with this temp agency. Ended up, I only did one job with them because it went from temp to perm position.
Wow.
So and they were offering me more money than I'd ever made in my life, and I was like, "Yes,
Sign me up.
well, I would like to be able to eat out occasionally and
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
and because that'd be awesome. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do that. You're gonna give me health insurance?
Oh,
That
even
sounds
better.
sounds ridiculous. I love it. Let's do this. So
Yeah.
with moving to that job, it basically makes auditioning for shows next to impossible.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, well, I'm trained to do three things. I'm trained to sing, I'm trained to dance, I'm trained to act. What of those three things can I not give up? Like, what of those three things is going to make me happy that I can pursue? And singing was the thing. So I progressed with singing from there on out. So that was 2 years into my 13 years in New York. Um, and so through that, I started singing with a girl group. That did not work out. Met some really great people though. And I had met some singer songwriters. And so I had started sort of hanging out with them and um, singing backup for them for their shows. And then I'd started doing my own little cabarets. And
Fun.
yeah, so I thought to myself, okay, I I would like to try my hand at songwriting because I am a poet. So I wrote poetry all through high school, and I am a published poet,
Wow.
anonymously, but I am a published poet.
Another organic shock right there. I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I thought, okay, well, I had written these lyrics while I was living in Atlanta, and I wanted to put some background to them. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to play the guitar.
Okay.
To learn.
Okay.
So I went to I think it was called Manhattan Guitar School. Um,
Okay.
I just did group classes, and
That's so cool.
it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
Do you think that's because you were in the orchestra, or is that like not related at all?
I think that's part of it.
Okay.
But I also think the teachers at that school are amazing.
Okay. That's
So
cool.
yeah, so I learned how to play the guitar. I had learned how to play the piano. My grandmother taught me when I was little.
Yeah.
Um, and so I still had the physical knowledge of how to do that. So I got
Mhm.
myself a piano and I was like, oh, well, I've never been able to play and sing together before. So I sort of retrained myself to just play my own version of songs. And then I can sing over top of it without feeling weird about what's happening with my hands.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so I started writing songs and playing out and still having the corporate job because I'm a diabetic. Health insurance is
Oh, yeah.
really clutch.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so, trying to do all the things. And, New York is a struggle
Mhm.
for most people. And I love New York. And I would never tell someone not to go there because it's an experience like no other. I probably would have stayed if it weren't such a struggle. But I was just done with that particular
Yeah.
thing. So I decided, okay, well, I want to move to Denver or I want to move to Nashville. And I really
Mhm.
just couldn't make that decision. So 3 years ago, I packed what would fit in my car and moved back to Pittsburgh.
Wow. Well, we're so happy you're back.
Yes, that's the short version of the story.
Yeah.
There's much more.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, of course, of course. So you touched on it a little bit. Right before this quarantine happens, you had some plans and released this new album of yours.
Yes.
Yay! Yay! As soon as I had come across your information and read the article about you and your album, I immediately pulled it up on my iTunes and I put it on, and it's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
beautiful. So
Thank
congratulations,
thank you.
first of all, but what a crazy time to release. But I know there was a couple little roadblocks leading up to that as well, right?
Yes. So I actually started the recording process in 2018.
Yeah.
Um, I have a producer friend slash sound engineer in New York that I had used for my first EP.
Hmm.
So I was like, all right, well, will you help me do this? And he's like, yes, let's do it. Great. So I had gone up to New York. I'd recorded all of my vocals, my ukulele, and my piano, and we had also recorded drums in one weekend. So
Wow.
cool, that stuff's done. And then I had gone up another weekend. And so my friend who plays the guitar, I had quoted him a price as to what I wanted to pay him. And he
Uh-huh.
said, does that mean that we can record in my apartment? I said, yeah, as long as Jason's okay with it.
Yeah, yeah,
As long as Jason's okay with it, sure,
yeah.
absolutely. Because I know he's such a professional guitarist. Like I knew even before I saw his whole setup, I was like, I know he's got every
Yeah.
gadget under the sun that we would even think to have there to record this guitar. So, and ultimately, he has an electric auto harp. So we
Oh,
probably wouldn't have gotten that sound had we not recorded in his apartment.
oh, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, so for the song My Name, if you hear the little like magical sounds in the background, that's the electric auto harp and it's magical.
That's so cool. Wow.
So I had gotten through all of that recording and a year after I had asked or talked to my friend in Nashville about recording strings and so I'm coming back to him saying, "Okay, I'm finally ready."
Yeah.
But he had like some amazing things happening for him that sort of took him out of the picture as far as time goes. And so I had reached out to a cello player because I thought, okay, well, I could do just a sad cello. Sad cello
Yeah.
sounds like it would be
Oh,
perfect
yeah.
for the. And then I don't know why I hadn't thought of her before, but I thought of her at the perfect time. The Sarah Clanton, she had done a show with me in Pittsburgh at Club Cafe
Oh,
a number of years ago. She had opened for me and Heather May, and I was like, oh, she's actually played on some of the songs because she played on a couple of the songs for that show.
cool.
And I was like, oh, awesome. I should just reach out to her, see if she can do it. And she had just gotten to a place where she had time to do it. And I was like, this is, this,
Yes.
this is kismet. I love it.
Oh, I love it.
So um, I got her on board. She recorded everything, got it over to the producer, and then we were in mixing and mastering and trying to, finish it, because that was the last piece that I needed. But it took me a good 6 to 10 months to get that organized. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was a little bit of a roadblock. And I also had gotten to the point where I could have finished the album by myself, like just using the savings that I was trying to get together.
Mhm.
But that would have taken probably another year. And I thought, okay, I don't like doing crowdfunding, but I feel like this is something that I need to do, because I my original EP, it took me 6 months to get it done.
Wow.
So over a year to get this done, I'm like, I can't, I feel like it's never going to come out. When it comes out, it's going to be completely passe.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, no, I'm gonna ask my fan base if they'll help me,
Mhm.
so that I can get this music to them before we're all dead.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh my
so
God.
I thought, okay, we'll try the crowdfunding thing, see if I can get it done. And so December, we did the Kickstarter.
Mhm.
December, we funded the Kickstarter. I was
Mhm.
able to finish the mixing and mastering in no time flat. And where I got a PR company to help me with promotions and getting the articles out, even one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's been a wild ride. We released the album on April 25th. It is
Yeah.
on, all of the streaming and the download platforms that you can shake a stick at.
Mhm.
And I'm also selling CDs on my website. So,
Awesome.
and I'm
Awesome.
working on getting merch together for,
Oh,
that kind of stuff. So,
once again, congratulations. What a ride, but it was well worth it.
so as soon as I see that people are actually going to shows,
Correct. Mhm.
because I feel like I'm trying to look at the fall
Yeah.
to book shows. So I want to do at least one in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to do just a couple of other cities where I have a more populated fan base,
Yeah.
to try and do a small tour.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah.
Well, keep us posted. We would love to come and support you while you're in Pittsburgh. And hey, maybe if it's somewhere fun, maybe we could travel there too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well that's really awesome. In terms of, do you have any advice that you could share maybe for any recent alumni, maybe even current students, or maybe alumni that have, graduated within the last 10 years that maybe are, wanting to perhaps produce their own EP, within the parameters of your world?
I would say find what you're passionate about. I mean, if you've been forced into a day job that really makes you sad, find that piece of passion that you have. It could be something that you're trained for. It could be something that you're not trained for. But find that little nugget that's going to make you happy every day. I know if I find myself sad or starting to slip into the dark place, if I sing at the top of my lungs and passionately, I feel so much better. Or if I sit down and I write like a small verse or a chorus or, just something
Yeah.
musical for me really helps me. And did I ever think that I was going to be a singer songwriter? No, I thought I was going to be dancing on Broadway stages. So I would say just follow where the path leads. It's terrifying, but it's usually a really good reward at the end.
Yeah, you just
So,
kind of got to keep navigating, keep going
yeah,
down, stay the course.
get it. To quote one of my favorite Disney quotes, just keep swimming, just keep swimming.
Oh, I love Finding Nemo. And Dory's
Yeah.
my favorite. Dory, good old Dory. Gotta love Dory. So, what have you been doing to stay busy?
So I do have a day job right now as a project manager.
Nice.
So I work for technology for this bank. So I've been working from home. So
Nice.
I'm still working 40 hours a week. Um, Sometimes a little bit more
Yeah.
as far as the day job goes, and then I'm working everything for. So I've been doing little live streams every Tuesday night. I'm
Okay.
posting on all the socials as far as where the live stream will be. Uh,
Okay.
so I've been trying to do those and really at least work on music some of the time. I have not written anything yet, but I do have a song in the works. Um,
Nice.
yes. So it's in the works, but it's marinating.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes I have those songs that just like I blink and they're written. And you're like,
Yeah.
ah, look at that. That wasn't so bad. And then
Yeah.
I have the songs that take 13 years to write, which is actually no sightings on on the album.
Wow.
Everything comes at the perfect time.
Yep.
It doesn't it doesn't seem like that sometimes.
I know.
Why is nothing happening?
I
Uh,
know.
and then things start to happen, and you're like, oh well, if it had happened before, then this and this wouldn't have happened. So
Exactly.
everything happens at the perfect time.
That perfect way to say it and perfect way to wrap this up. So this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your story and everything about your life. I so appreciated seeing you and being able to connect with you again. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I really enjoyed our little chats.
Yeah, me too. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Have a good day.